lovely lot, and welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk
filmmaking.
From indie films to studio films to documentaries to short films to high-end TV and
everything in between.
How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
royally F them up.
In our very, 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 very
humble opinion.
I'm Giles Alderson.
I am Dom Lenoir.
Did you nearly forget? Oh, I've got a lovely cup of tea. It feels good. The weather is it's beautiful, but it's that evening where you just want to wrap yourself in a lovely blanket and get yourself a nice cup of tea.
Yep.
As the sun sets and the little whispers of cold drift up your back like a steam engine.
Yeah, it is genuinely like the weirdest weather, because it's not like a sort of a traditional spring where it's like it's quite warm and you sort of know that it's not really going to be warm enough to de-jumper or not take your coat out. It's like one moment you're out of the wind and out of the shade, and you're actually like, okay, I've been in the sun too long, I need to avoid heat stroke.
Thinking of getting your milky white top out. Yeah.
And then the next moment you're walking around the shade and the wind's picked up and there's no sun, and it's not just cold, it's like bitingly winter cold, and it's quite hard to navigate around.
You need your duffel coat. It's amazing. So for those of you who don't live in the UK, that is a little slice of the weather.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Yes, we'll bring you for the weather on next week. Follow the Filmmakers Podcast for your next sun and showers update.
Yes, cinema madness. But we're here not just to talk about the weather.
I did talk about the weather with Natalie Dormer.
Oh, you did?
You did? Because I spoke to her when it was like the first day of like actual. I think it was like a week ago, and it was that first week when it actually was just warm, and it was just nice. There wasn't any cold. Because we've been talking through Gregory Longstreet, who's a personal rep on in America. So we sort of got connected, and we did the sort of Natalie Dormer interview because of the interview with Amy, which was taking place in America. So it was like American junket on American time. Assumed that Natalie was in America, and she's like, no, I'm in London. so we ended up talking about the weather as you do.
See, as you do. You could have popped round for a cup of tea with her.
Yeah.
That'd be nicer.
Natalie, if you're listening, I'm always up for a cup of tea.
There you have it. Right here, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. So today, if you don't know, if you just happen to have carried on listening from last week's episode and didn't check to see who was on this week's episode, I'm now about to tell you. It's not just about the weather. I think you might have picked up that it is Natalie Dormer. You might have got that from Dom's asking for a cup of tea. However, it's not just Natalie Dormer that's on this episode. We've also got the director, Ami Mann. She's the director of Audrey's Children, which is a touching story about the impact of paediatric oncologist Dr. Audrey Evans, which is played by Natalie Dormer. And Dom sat down with both of them separately, not for a cup of tea, but on Zoom, and had a lovely chat. What did you talk about? Actually, first of all, should we start with Natalie Dormer, and then should we go to Ami Mann? What do you think?
Yeah, pitch for a show, right?
Yeah.
Dom and Dormer.
Dom and Dormer. I like, or Dom and Dormer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
I think it's a great one.
It's catchy.
It's really catchy.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got to be up for it. So if she accepts your cup of tea offer,
yes,
I think then you can pitch it to her and say, listen, this is why we're here to talk about the series. What happens in the series? Because I
don't know. I mean, I guess it's got probably something to do with tea and Britishness. It could be a weather report. I don't know.
Dom and Dormer, that's brilliant, actually.
Yeah, not bad.
I'd watch that.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably would have to because I have to edit it.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Audrey's Children is out now. March the 20th it came out. It premiered in Tribeca last year, and it got a lot of heat around it, got a lot of love because it's about care and social, emotional needs for families and parental needs as well.
I mean, it was kind of a revolutionary story, really, of mixing different cancer treatments together for the first time. I mean, it was quite groundbreaking for modern medical science.
Yeah, well, she reduced the mortality rate by 50% with her treatments. Today it's down to 85%, so she was a total champion, and it's quite a wonderful story. So, Dom, if we're starting with Natalie Dormer, what you didn't just talk about tea. What else did you talk about with Natalie Dormer?
Well, it was actually a really interesting chat because we went quite a lot into process, finding the movement and the kind of persona of the character, how she walked. She talked about like when she was doing, because there's a lot of scenes in this where you get to see her inhabiting the character when there's no other people in the scene, or she's thinking, or she's going through the motions of figuring things out. So you get to really sort of experience that in her life, and she talks about some of those different processes and how she kind of found the character, which was really interesting. We also talked about the brand new Notting Hill Film School, which I have been doing some teaching, which is it's a great way to just get kids into the film industry, have somewhere fun where they can unwind after school. It's kind of industry adjacent, but also like learning acting, confidence, filmmaking, those kind of things. And so we had a nice chat about that as well.
What, has she been there as well? Has she taught there?
Well, she might come along. no, but we were just I think we were just talking about the comparisons with working with children, because obviously she's worked with loads of children in Audrey's Children, it's Phil Hawkins of the podcast has done a lot of work with children as a director as well, and it's whatever sort of medium we're talking about, it is its own thing, and there's a lot of benefits, and also there's this kind of directness and these kind of ideas that come from nowhere that adults wouldn't necessarily come up with, that is quite sort of refreshing with children, and they can also be incredibly blunt. There's lots that they can offer that can add a lot to the process of filmmaking.
Totally agree. They can stop all the waffle, they don't need all the rubbish around it. It's like, what A to B, what am I doing?
I was walking around at the Heath the other,
of course you were.
Like 2 days ago, and this this kid was like walking with her mum and was like, "Mummy, he looks like he's getting sunburned."
How many times has he walked around this Heath, Mummy?
Yeah, quite a few, to be fair. I mean,
Yeah, you love it there. If anyone is, Natalie Dormer, if you are listening and Dom doesn't get in touch about the cup of tea, but you really want to have a cup of tea with him, then go find him on the Heath.
Yes.
That's where it'll be.
Offer me some suntan cream, because obviously...
because he needs it.
I need it.
Yeah, he'll needs to look after your skin. It's very important, kids.
Yeah.
Very, very important, as that child did know. And Natalie Dormer, she's an actress. She commands the screen.
Yes.
I'd say. With her intelligence, she's got intensity, undeniable presence. She brings these complex characters to life with remarkable depth.
She's also got this kind of wonderful sense of lively energy, and there's like a little bit of mischief in there, like that she kind of naturally brings, that which kind of really goes well with that kind of gravitas to make her likable.
She's got spunky danger. Yeah, spunky danger. Spunky danger. How I'd describe it. Yeah,
that could be another pitch for a film name. Spunky danger.
Oh my gosh. Dom and Dormer present Spunky Danger. She is known for her roles as the cunning Anne Boleyn in the Tudors. She was amazing in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
She was Cressida in the Hunger Games franchise. She was also in The Professor and the Madman, and she's been in Penny Dreadful, City of Angels. She's just one of those actresses. She delivers powerful performances, as we've just said, across film and television, and she's done video games as well in her time. So it's going to be an amazing chat, engaging, insightful conversation with Dom Lenoir as we present Dom and Dormer.
TM.
Here is Natalie Dormer and Dom Lenoir, and at the other side of this we'll be chatting about what we've been up to, what I've been doing on sessions, the feature film, what Dom's been doing touring around with the feature film Time Travel is Dangerous, which is out in cinemas now. But for now though, here's Natalie Dormer. Enjoy.
Heya, how you doing?
Hi Dom, how are you?
Very good, very good. You're over in the States at the moment, are you right?
No, I'm in the UK right now.
Oh, okay, good. I thought I was like rustling you up early. Amazing. I'm in London as well. The sun is shining, right? We've actually got sun.
We're probably like a mile away from each other.
Yeah. How are you doing? I mean, massive congratulations on the film. It's such a wonderful, important story, and it's uplifting as well.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a story that should be known. So Yeah.
So what was your sort of route into this? Like, how did you first hear about the story? How did you get attached? What was it that made you? I mean, obviously the story itself is very, very appealing, but it'd be good to know the sort of process.
I sat down to read the script, and I was on vacation with my family actually, and I was like, I just need to read like the first 10 pages of something, and just read the whole thing.
You always know in the first 10 pages, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of like, okay, I'm not coming for lunch. Just so I ended up reading the whole thing in one go, and it made me cry, in a couple of places. And I just knew that it was very special. And I couldn't believe that I personally hadn't heard of Dr. Audrey Evans before. That really surprised me. And so I just thought, this woman is a trailblazer. She's incredible, and the world should know who she is. And I just kind of felt like it was kind of an honor to be asked to play such an incredible human being. So I was like, I'm in.
It's baffling, isn't it, that some of these stories are only sort of coming out now so many years later, when they're such a foundation of like modern medicine, and so many lives have been saved.
Truly, yeah. And I mean, and the Evans staging system is still more or less the foundation system for the staging system that they use for certainly neuroblastoma today. It's absolutely, its heritage is there.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it was a very emotional film, especially with the children as well. Like when you. Have you
got kids? Have you got kids?
No, I don't have kids, but I've got nephews that are in the sort of 5 to 9 range, and also recently we've started a film school in London, in Notting Hill. So I've been sort of dealing with kids in the sort of 6 to 9 range as well, and spending a lot of time with kids. And I mean, working with children is a huge reward in itself, but also like the challenges. But it's heartbreaking. I mean, like imagining sort of children at that age, and having to go through these kind of things.
I mean, but it's true. That was a unique experience for me working with the child actors, because it required a certain level of flexibility and improvisation. And, Dr. Audrey Evans, like one of the things she said to like Julia was like, she basically told her she was only allowed to write and make the film if it would have a positive effect on children's lives. Wow. And if it would promote what children are going through. She wasn't like, there was no ego to that woman in that way. And so she was like, you're only allowed to make the film if you promise me it's going to make things better for children. With
no pressure.
With the promotion of the journey,
Yeah.
And but just getting to work with those young child actors who were so dedicated and so in it, which is a lot to ask for children to play sick children like that.
Yeah.
And it required from all of us as the filmmakers and the crew to be quite, loose in our approach. And I think the film really benefited from that spontaneity of, I mean, I spent a lot of time just improvising with the kids, and I know that Amy let the cameras run. So it was a very special experience for me in that way, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think I remember reading a while ago, there's a sort of an age where imagination and real world logic are sort of forming in children's mind, and they can access that imagination at such a great level. I mean, was there any sort of tips and tricks in terms of like communicating with children? I mean, obviously not talking down to them is always a good start, but to get sort of those nice connections on screen.
Just hanging out with them. I would, there would be other jobs where you would maybe disappear to your green room or your dressing room, and you would sort of go hide away or like try and focus or try and learn lines. And if ever I had a child-centric day, which was quite often, I would just make sure that I stayed with them and their parents or their chaperone. And I would just hang with them, so that then you have a familiarity with them and a friendship with them. Yeah. So then when cameras are rolling, the scenario doesn't feel so peculiar.
Yeah.
And I mean, not, it's like, they were a really surprising, incredibly talented young cast, like really amazing. But even with supporting artists in the background, there were quite a few child supporting actors. They're lining the corridors and all the rest of it. And, Jimmy and I and Clancy, it's like you just hang out with them. You just talk to them between setups. You play games, you tell jokes, and you have fun. And I mean, and then that just creates a very natural environment that is very was very specific and unique to this job.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a sort of a joy to be
sounds
immersed.
like what you're doing, man. We're setting up a film school.
It is. I mean, it's way more like rewarding than I ever thought it could be, because they're so impressionable and they're such sponges, but they've got so much to offer. They really do. Like, you know, children of all ages,
and they ask really pertinent questions, don't they?
They do. Yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes very cutting questions that like get sliced right through to the truth. So okay, just talking a little bit about Dr. Audrey herself, because, you know, you've done an amazing job of sort of bringing her character to life. What was the sort of thoughts in terms of like what to use and what to bring into the character? You know, because we're not making a documentary here. You want to bring the essence of the character, but like what's important, what's not important in terms of those performance things.
I mean, I listened. So you know, when you're playing a real person, you feel a responsibility, and you, as you say, you don't want to do an impersonation, but I watched what footage there is of her, especially when she was younger. And I made sure that I spoke, you know, a lot of like the head honchos of oncology at CHOP now, at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia now, were kind of like residents when they started out under her.
Right.
So like when she was like this when she was like the grand dam of, you know, of chemotherapy and oncology at CHOP, and, you know, doctors that I was, MDs that were very gracious in giving me their time, and Jimmy and their time, you know, who are, you know, established. They're like the head honchos now in their later parts of their careers, but they were like frightened newbies when they started out, and because Audrey was there for forever. So I got firsthand, you know, I got first-hand witness stories and experiences of her. And, you know, she came into a room like this and she was like this, and, you know, and that's the kind of thing she would say. And luckily I didn't know, but I didn't know till after, but during the gala scene where she, you know, she stands up in that blue dress and she basically tells everyone what she's doing, and she asks for money, demands money in an Audrey way. I didn't know that a lot of the supporting artists in that scene were staff of CHOP, oncology staff that had been under her when they were younger. And I'm so glad I didn't know that. Yeah. I'm so glad I didn't know that. Pressure, yeah. And then after, when we were leaving, they were all like, "You got the voice.
Yeah.
You got the gait, you got the way she walked, she held herself, you got it." And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I didn't know you were in the room before. Because I would have been terrified.
Yeah, well, it is. It's a lot of pressure to sort of live up to someone in person. I mean, we've got to wrap up pretty soon, but just wanted to sort of one more question. Because what I loved about this is you get to spend so much time with your camera, not only with other actors, but in the life of like walking around and like, you know, talking, the sort of monologue stuff. Have you got any sort of tips about, you know, really embodying for those bits to sort of bring the character to life when you haven't got like a scene partner? Because I mean, even doing a monologue to the lamb was like a wonderful moment in the scenes.
I listened to her a lot. So that would be my thing, is that I listened to her a lot, and I listened to her in interviews a lot. I had her playing in my ear between scenes. She famously did a lot of stuff on dictaphone, when she was, she recorded a lot of things like family holidays and trips and stuff. And because Julia was so close to her, I had access to those things. So I literally had her in my ear. Amazing. Is the way to put it. Do you see what I mean?
No, between
takes and scenes, I would listen to the woman herself, like talking about a holiday she had in Scotland or giving a lecture. And it just sort of like plugged me back into her attitude, her manner, and her humor. Humor as well.
You certainly brought that sort of humor and warmth and a really well-balanced character. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's been a massive pleasure to chat to you. And
thanks, Dom.
Congrats for the movie.
Thank you. Good luck with the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the London sun. Bye-bye.
What a lovely chat. What a lovely person.
She was genuinely like very, very nice, down to earth. One of those people that's like, you know, actually quite nice to chat to because they're interested in, a two-way conversation and what you're talking about as much as what they're doing, and it sort of feels like a human experience, which you sort of you get a vibe about what people are like, and you think, okay, yeah, she's one of the good ones.
Yes, I agree.
In the tick list of nice actors.
Yeah, and also on the tick list of people I want to work with, and I know you're the same as well. Not just doing a TV show called Dom and Dormer.
Yeah, I mean, I can't cast someone else for Dom and Dormer now.
No, well, so that was Natalie Dormer. Next, we're going to have Ami Mann. This is her feature film, Audrey's Children, which we're talking about anyway. She's putting a solid body of work over her career, but she did work on Heat, the movie Heat, because her dad is Michael Mann, the director, Michael Mann. Her debut feature film, Morning, won several festival awards, and then her follow-up, Texas Killing Fields, which starred Jessica Chastain, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and Chloe Grace Moretz. That was nominated for the Golden Lion at the 68th Venice Film Festival. And her film Jackie and Ryan, starring Ben Barnes and Katherine Heigl, was nominated for the Orizzonti at the 71st Venice International Film Festival.
Beautifully pronounced.
Thank you. And then she made the pilot episode block for the Netflix series In From the Cold, which reached Netflix top 10. And other series directing work includes House of Cards, Shots Fired, and Sneaky Pete. I love Sneaky Pete. And Friday Night Lights, she also did. She received a Television Academy Honours Award for her episode I Can't. She's amazing. She attended the USC School of Cinema and Television Production Program. And she's a graduate of the MFA program for writers at Warren Wilson College. So she's earned her stripes. She's pretty incredible. She's worked her way up. What do you and Amy talk about, Dom? What could it possibly be? Tea, the weather, or Audrey's children? Or both?
It was mostly Audrey's children, to be honest. No, we talked about we talked about a lot of things, actually. We talked about her career, where she really did sort of go backwards and forwards from film and television, which is really interesting. And we also talked about the influence of her parents. We actually talked about her mum more than her dad in sort of inspiration and her sort of beginnings in film and some of those kind of early leanings, and also especially working with children again. That was really interesting, but just allowing long takes, and for the kind of magic that they bring, working with Natalie, just letting them sort of find the authentic magic, especially for this film.
I love it when that happens. I love when magic happens. It really is. It's special. It's special, and it's hard to bottle it, but when it happens, you just have to just punch the air, and it's a joy. It really is. So yeah, very exciting. And luckily for me, I actually had some of those moments this week.
Oh yes, because you've been on set.
Yes, on the second block of sessions, I say block, second week of the feature film sessions. It's been announced this week as well, so I can announce the cast now, which is amazing. It was announced in Deadline Hollywood. So we have Jonas Armstrong, who was in 3-Day Millionaire with me, Jamie Winston, Leo Gregory, Priya Kalidas, Purcell Ascot, and Rupert Graves, as well as Daniel O'Reilly, who's written this alongside myself, Jonathan Cogan, and Tobias Vies.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Is that Tobias Vies, formerly of short films, who technically now has graduated into the feature film world as a writing credit?
Correct, though he did on Wolves of War and Stranger in Our Beds. He definitely was involved in those projects too. But yes, on Sessions, this is officially first credits to Toby. Congratulations to you.
Well done.
Woohoo! Amazing news. So that was amazing. It got announced. It means I can talk about it freely as well, which is great. There's other cast members as well, which haven't been announced yet, but I'm sure we'll talk about those soon. But it's been a great couple of weeks, but this week especially, I did do a few punching of the air moments when you just, the weather has been good, which has really helped, but the crew are amazing. You just working with the similar people you've worked with before, or same people you've worked with before, and they're new ones, but your crew have worked with them, and you just have this wonderful amalgamation of crews coming together and everyone knowing how each other works. So when we've had actors come on, whether they've been on for a day or a couple of days or whatever, I've gone, wow, this seems like a really well-oiled machine, and that feels really good, and it's a compliment to the amazing crew we've got on this. Andy Roger is shooting it, he's my cinematographer, and
Andrew Beard Roger.
Indeed.
Don't ever forget that beard. Don't ever forget it.
No, you can't.
It's just right there.
Well, it goes grey and even more beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, how's the tour been? Have you been around with the gang of Time Travel is Dangerous, which is out in cinemas now, everyone? Podcast coming up soon.
Do you remember when we did a cinema run and I labelled the Google Drive the Torshank Redemption?
Yes. I do.
Yeah. I didn't do it this time.
Did you?
Yeah.
They did. I was going to say, did the same gag. What did you call this one?
Nothing. No, I think I just, maybe I've slightly grown up a little bit. I don't know.
Maybe you've slightly grown up a little bit. I don't think so.
It's going very well. It's. We've had 100 screenings.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's bonkers.
100?
I know. We've had bus adverts.
That's amazing.
I mean, we had a triple sold out Q&A in screenings in Muswell Hill for the premiere.
Yes, that's where it's set, the movie.
And we're doing when we brought all the set there, like the Dodgem car, the Botty bot. Yeah, I mean it's going very well. I mean we've 4 stars in The Guardian, which is pretty bonkers for an independent film as well.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yes. What has worked the best on the tour, do you think?
I mean, I think you just have to have like a good number of annoyingly persistent people on your team.
Like yourself.
Like myself. Yep. Definitely like the Shakespeare sisters. Director Chris Redding also is, you know, in the best way, annoyingly persistent. But it's not just the persistence. It's like you have to sort of have a network of, you know, film people, and we also have a great marketing person. There's like the core team has to be, I feel, for like a cinema run to work, you know, for independent films. You've got to have like a core team. You know, it's very difficult when it's just a single sort of entity, or like, you know, just come and see my film. But when there's like enough people feeding into enough areas, and then, you know, the cast are helping, and you know, some of the cast are, you know, really sort of chipping in and doing some promotion as well. It becomes like a expanding thing, and then the more everyone does, the more it sort of builds, and then you get, you know, it just exponentially increases. So yeah, it is possible, but like definitely having a great core team is pretty important.
I totally agree with you. Having that core team, and there, like you say, yourself and the Shakespeare sisters, who are just wonderfully persistent and just be like, no, come. What's everyone doing? Can you help? Can you do this? And actually, you need that. It's, you know, why would anyone come and see anyone else's film? And even filmmakers tend not to go and support sometimes. And if you're listening, please do go support as much as you can. It's so easy not to. And actually, going out there sometimes can be hard, and you have to be brave. But the support is, you know, so useful. When you've got yours going, it's easier for other people to go, oh, right, yeah, I will go because they came to mine or whatever. And don't expect it, but it does help. And you just need that team of people who are pushing online on the socials, just doing stuff, the right people tagging it, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty amazing. Speaking of tagging, you had a blog out on Directors UK and on nerdly.co.uk, but we're going to come back to that after the chat with Ami Mann and yourself, talking about Audrey's children. Let's get back to that. And then on the other side of that, we'll talk about that. We'll do film term of the week, and we'll do film topic of the week as well. What a bumper show. How exciting. Right, so for now, strap in. It is Dom Lenoir and Ami Mann, a Domanion, if you like, talking all about Audrey's children. Here we go.
Well, welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast. Yeah, pleasure to have you here. It's a really powerful film, and it's a story that I hadn't heard of, and I feel like a lot of people haven't heard of and probably should have. So how are you doing for a start?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. So what was the kind of inception of this story? Like, how did it come to you? What was the kind of beginnings?
The script came to me and as a submission, and I read it. Julia Fisher-Farman wrote a beautiful screenplay. I read it, and then I came to the scene where Audrey is talking to one of her patients on the roof of the hospital, and she's chatting with her about how to conceive of her own passing. And that really struck me. I thought, my God, that is a conversation that no adult wants to have with a child. And then here was this woman who did that on the daily and for decades, and at the same time as she was fighting with everything she had to try to save their lives. And so I thought, this is really a story I want to try to help tell.
I mean, it is anything to do with children is you know, intrinsically very you know, moving, and I mean, just the concepts of children with any kind of cancer or and anything in that territory is really hard to sort of get your head around, and yeah, it's a brilliant thing to sort of draw a light to. I mean, what was the kind of process in looking into Audrey herself once you kind of started investigating and you got through the script?
Yeah, I mean, we were just so lucky to. Well, I was able to meet her twice, which was amazing. She passed away 2 weeks before we wrapped.
That's a shame.
Yeah, I know, but she met the cast, and I sat with her a couple times and chatted with her about her life a little bit, which led to, she told me about having been a child in the tuberculosis ward in England in the 1930s and that sense of isolation that she felt, which apparently she hadn't shared up until then, which was kind of amazing. So I was like to Julia, like, we have to incorporate this in the movie, and that's where we came up with the sort of flashbacks to that moment, because I really felt like that was I don't know if I'm right or not, but my gut was that was her impetus for, she knew what it was like to be a child who was ill. She knew what it was like to be a child who was isolated. So perhaps that was the motivation for the incredible work that she did. Julia Fisher-Farbman, his grandfather knew Audrey. So Julia had known Audrey since she was a child, and which was incredible. So we had access to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and a lot of the nurses and doctors who certainly knew of Audrey's work, and many of them had worked with her as mentees. So it was incredible. We always had my mandate was that I didn't want any medical professional to look at the movie and say to themselves, "No, that's not really how you hold a syringe." Like, I really wanted, I wanted, I wanted the language, the lexicon, the physicality, the props, everything to be as authentic as possible. But, just out of respect for the work that they do. And we were just really lucky, and that we had I had a doctor on standby. I had nurses playing actual nurses. Like, I had a lot of sources just to vet ourselves to make sure that we were doing it properly.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I did a medical scene in a film a while back, and it's amazing, like, how on it the medical profession is about, like, really, really. I guess because you're kind of portraying something that could be life threatening if it's done wrong, and it's something that it's not a job which people take lightly. Like, people's lives are at risk, and you have to get those those sort of minor kind of details kind of worked. So I mean, what else was the sort of the route since you came on as a director after having those conversations with her, in terms of like how you wanted to approach this as a director? Like, what were the first sort of steps in building your vision and how you wanted to approach it?
Well, the first steps for building the vision were really sort of just to think about the challenge of the movie, the inherent sort of puzzle. I like a puzzle, and this one was definitely a puzzle, because it was, a story about children with cancer is not something you're immediately going to go to on a Friday night, right? Like, I've had a long week. Let me think about kids with cancer. So which was an interesting challenge. It was like, would it be possible, was this challenge, to create a visual world that was so visceral and sensual and kind of seductive and felt real, that you kind of want, with music and production design and costuming and shots and lighting, that you would kind of want to be in there, and is it possible to create a character that's so compelling and human and relatable, as well as brilliant, that you kind of would want to walk with her shoulder to shoulder for an hour and a half. And at the end of that hour and a half, it turns out you've been told a story about kids with cancer. That was sort of the approach, to develop a kind of visual lexicon that was interesting and evocative and authentic. And so to that end, that was, the color palette was decidedly, I was like, everything's Ektachrome. And I tend to do a lot of visual research, and I build like a room. In this case, it was a hallway with visual references for every scene, so that any crew member, like from PA to DP, can look and say, oh, okay, this is the color palette we're working here with this section of the movie, and this is the color palette we're working for that section of the movie. There were no primary colors. It was sort of deep saturated colors, really judicious use of the color red. I only used red in one piece of wardrobe where she's going to the bank by design. And then to have the shots be really, compelling, I from a photography background, so I'm pretty camera. I don't pretend to know how to light, but I do compose. So it was great with my DP. I was very lucky to have a DP who I was able to say, okay, here's the composition, this is the shot, and this is kind of what it should feel like. And then he just painted with that light, and I think he did a beautiful job.
So just going into, let's sort of break this down into a few elements. So the color palette we sort of discussed first. So are we talking color palette changing as we're going through the film to sort of link with character and mood and those kind of decisions? Are we linking it into structure, or are we talking about mostly the setting of the tone and creating an environment that's kind of enjoyable to watch? I mean, where's the sort of balance between that discussion?
Kind of both. That the color palette should be immediately this is not something I'm to write. And then using the flashbacks, having that color be completely not shooting in black and white, but having it be completely desaturated. So it feels a little bit, separate from the world. And then having there be moments that were just its own kind of color. There's a moment where she's at a swimming pool and everything is variations on blues and grays. There's the moment that I mentioned at the bank where everything is grays and blacks and whites, except for her red dress. There's moments where, in the conference room where she's at the conference room where everything is decidedly kind of neutral and brown, including her. Like there's two scenes in the conference room. And the first one where she's, possibly her career is ruined because of action that she took at the hospital. She's not away from the men. She's sort of blended in with the men that are at the conference room, and everything is very consistently that. And then when we come back, she's, her dress is a little bit more vibrant. And then just in terms of the use of pattern, that was also a big visual motif for me. Firstly, because it was true to the character. She's working with children. So she tended to wear dresses and jewelry that a 2 and a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old would be, feel comfortable and be interested in.
Yeah.
And then that for me kind of extended out to a character motif as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, we'll sort of come to the character in a little bit, but I like the use of, because there are things that you don't always like, if it's done well and you're immersed in the performances, you don't always notice these things on a sort of conscious level. But they do have an effect when you're kind of in these rooms, like in the background, like, okay, I should be feeling slightly more in this because this is the kind of setting. And it's a great kind of, way to sort of visually storytell and influence people, I guess, into the, the greater themes that you're trying to sort of get across into the film.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I feel like if you're doing your job, at least everybody directs differently, but I sort of feel like if I'm doing my job correctly, it's never something you would consciously notice.
Yes.
But you would just sort of feel a certain way.
Exactly.
And you're not meant, Yeah.
No, and I think, I noticed it immediately, the sort of the texture and the colors of the film from the word go. Like it was immediately like very immersive, and it had a very sort of lived in texture that was nice. And just even the lens choices, it didn't feel like a sort of a generic film, and those kind of things immediately do sort of grab you into the movie. So talking about the cinematography side, what was the initial conversations about, how to shoot this? What kind of lens, what kind of camera movement, how close you wanted to be to the, your protagonist, Natalie, because we do spend a lot of time watching her, which we can sort of get to later in the performance, but it's great to watch her between lines and moving around and sort of inhabiting spaces and getting to feel her character's inner life.
Yeah, the lenses we landed on a vintage lens, a Hawk, and which is a beautiful lens because we were just sort of interested in vintage lenses, and then when I looked at the Hawk, I was like, okay, well that's the one, because it does this interesting thing where it's sort of like
is it the Hawk anamorphics?
It's almost an animal, and it kind of like blurs the edges.
Yeah,
so what it does is it immediately pulls your focus to the center of the lens and center of the frame, which is exactly how she is as a character. So like the lens kind of became this character. This character is, to a fault, by the way, she's a hero, but she's not a flawless hero, makes her, when she pushes a little too hard, she's a little bit too much. So, but she's got this myopia, right? And the lens itself to me was an extension of that characterization. And then I ended up using a ton of 40 mils. Like 40 mil was kind of my go-to lens because you can get a close-up with a 40 mil and feel like you're close, and you kind of like everything around it kind of a little bit fades away, but it's not so close that it's distorting, but it's not so far away that you don't feel. There was just something about a 40 mil with this movie that was just like, I'm going to say maybe 80% of the time, that's the lens I'm using. And then I use a couple of super wides as well, just because I just love a wide lens. But I was surprised at myself that I didn't use wides more often. But I just, what you were saying about her thinking, I mean, that's the thing that I thought was so fascinating about this film. It's really about a woman thinking, a scientist thinking. And so I wanted you to be there to watch that occur, because I don't know, I found it fascinating.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating. And it's kind of this mix of, I guess, empathy with the children and what they're going through. But then there's also this kind of, great scientific mind. And then all the way through, there's this kind of rebellion against the system. And, however hard or, too hard or whatever she pushes, like you can really see where she's coming from. And it is it looked like a very frustrating sort of world to be in for someone that was trying to change lives. So you're just going into the sort of the camera movement. I mean, in terms of grip gear, dolly, steady cam, how, when to hold, like what were some of those early sort of cinematography sort of conversations that you had?
Well, I just, there's a couple of challenges with this movie, and that a lot of it takes place inside a potentially claustrophobic interior. So it was important to me that I established Philadelphia as soon as possible and as thoroughly as possible, so that even when you're inside, you could feel, because you'd been shown it, you can feel the world exteriorly as well. And then in terms of the lighting, that also played a part too. It was very, John and I talked about, like, we'd have to bring the outside in with light. So it should just feel like swaths of light coming in. So even though you can't see outside the windows and see the city, you can feel the light from the outside coming in, and that people are sort of moving through these pieces of light, and that it's kind of blown out a little bit, and that's okay, because you'd sense, we've already established the world beyond. And then in terms of camera movement, no steady cam, no handhelds. I wanted the film to feel like I did an episode of House of Cards and had the blessed good fortune of being able to work with a camera operator named Gary J, who's sort of was the genius behind that. I mean, as well as Fincher, obviously, but sort of maintained that Fincher look and was just brilliant. And one of the things I really liked about that show is that you kind of felt like you were walking through milk when you watched it. I mean, there's just sort of like a smooth kind of, quality about it, and wanted that a little bit for Audrey's children too. So very kind of when we are moving, so that it's fast, but it should feel, smooth and always sort of graceful, because again, that's how she walked through the world. I mean, she actually literally walked really fast. That's something that I heard a lot of people say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she was just a fast. You had to keep up with her when she was walking through the hallway. So I wanted to have you're with her in that energy, but it's not a frustrating kind of energy. It just sort of feels like, yes, this is how we move. We move quickly because we have to move quickly, and we move gracefully because we have to move gracefully. But there should be that. And then choosing, I play viola, and I really think about things a lot in terms of musicality when I'm thinking about pacing. And so choosing those moments, as there is in a piece of classical music, where you've had a certain type of pace, and then you've kind of earned a moment to rest.
Yeah.
And there's that kind of stopping point. And then knowing how long to maintain that tension before we're off again, So there are a couple moments where I just wanted you to be sitting with what you're seeing, having received all the information you've just received. And then we sit for a minute, we absorb it, and then we take off again. Yeah. So those are the moments those are the moments where I tended to stay still.
Yeah, no, I mean, it works very well, because you do certainly, especially when you're she's walking around and she's pacing and she's thinking and there's momentum, you really do feel that kind of link between the camera and her character's drive. And when she's stuck in these kind of situations of conflict or, emotional sort of moments with the children, you also kind of feel that stuckness. And I feel like in filmmaking, it's one of those things that is assumed in any good film, is that you have these ups and downs and these stop-starts in pacing. But when you look at scripts, it's not the immediate thing that you think of. You think about character arcs. But it's so vital for audience attention is to have these kind of push-pull moments, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So just going into how Natalie Dormer got involved, because her performance is fantastic, and so are the children as well. How did you get her involved? I heard a little bit from her about it, but it'd be great to know what that process was in terms of how you approached her and getting her attached.
Well, we were super fortunate to get attached. I think she's a brilliant actress. I saw her in a actually haven't seen a lot of Game of Thrones, so I didn't know her from the Game of Thrones. Okay. I saw her in the remake of Picnic at Hanging Rock, and there's this shot that's on her back, and it's incredible. She's just walking to this house, and there's already so much power in her shoulders. And then at a certain moment, she turns towards the camera, and I was just like, "Whoa!" That's the one. I mean, she's got this fire in her.
Yeah.
And she had, I mean, that was just a prerequisite. You needed to have somebody who had this possibly counterintuitive combination of a fire that would not be put out, and also the ability to be completely compassionate and empathic to somebody who was incredibly vulnerable. And that's a tricky, you can, we all embody those two qualities.
Yeah.
And this character needed it in the extreme. And then also, and which Natalie had, absolutely. And then also Natalie's just, brilliant, and you can sort of feel her thinking. And again, that was a really important quality.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sort of charming forcefulness that she embodies as an actress, that she sort of brings to this so well. Like she can get stuff done, and she's never going to give up. But there's a lighter, more sort of thoughtful side that always sort of comes through, and especially when you're spending all this time, looking at her inner thoughts and her contemplating things, it's kind of very important. Also, the working with the children, because she mentioned briefly that you sort of sometimes would have longer takes where you could allow things to play out. I mean, how did you approach working with children in general? Like, what was that kind of like?
Well, there's that old, joke in Hollywood, you should never work with kids or children. Animals or children. I actually love working with animals, and I love working with children. I think they're the best because they're just they're forthright and they're honest. And there's a kind of like, there's a truth about all of us. There's something that's sometimes an easier accessible truth about children and animals, I find. So the objective was, again, everybody approaches directing differently, but I think because I took acting lessons to be a better director, not to be an actor, my God. Yeah. And one of the things that I really learned from that experience was like, Jesus, we asked them to do incredible stuff. I mean, it's if you think about it, what we're asking actors to do is insane. Can you like delve into your soul and give us some piece of your inherent truth at 2:00 in the morning in front of 100 strangers, like again and again and again, and then we're going to change camera positions and do it again. It's crazy. I have a lot of respect for actors. So my goal is always, and particularly when working with kids, to try to make sure as much as possible, given the constraints of it being an independent film shooting in 23 days, that the crew and the set is aware and the set is set up so that it feels calm and safe. And so that they are able and feel safe to give their most vulnerable, authentic performances. And then once we have that, we were just, we could kind of then do the improvisations, and the children felt comfortable. They had their own room, like the room that I actually shoot in is the room that they just hung out in there too. And so I just sort of made it so that the cameras were flexible enough and there's enough communication that if I gave a prompt that we were just going to we're just going to talk, that we could move around and capture it and grab it. And a lot of the dialogue that you see in the movie with the kids is improvised.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely just get this sense of naturalism, and I think Natalie mentioned that as well, was spending time rather than go back to the trailer and just hanging out, and you do sort of build bonds in that way. And I mean, speaking just on acting classes, I did the same, because I sort of came from a cinematography background when I started directing, and I didn't understand actors very well at all. And it's until you go in and you realize like how undefinable and complex and raw what an actor has to do. You can't really empathize in what they have to do. And then obviously children. So, I mean, it sounds like in this case, you kind of came up with this, a visual idea and a visual language in the main, but you were being quite flexible around the performances maybe as the focus. I mean, was that the kind of the approach to try and give the children what they need, rather than here's hundreds of marks to hit and putting them in their heads?
Yeah, I mean, I always have one of my favorite things about directing is that, for me, that the most of the work is done on the Sunday afternoon when no one's watching you and you're not on set, right? It's like the breaking down of the script and figuring out the shot list. And I always say to my crew, like, I will always come on set with a plan. It may not end up being the plan, but there will be a plan. There will never be a moment where I'm sitting there wondering what to do. Like, we will always know what the camera positions are, what the camera positions that we need to. I will never. We'll never have to do reshoots. We'll never be missing a piece of coverage. Like, that will always be covered. And for me, with that approach, the trick is to know that you have that in your back pocket and you can lean on it. And that way, if something amazing happens, you can feel confident that you can let go of this camera position because you've got these other two that will give you all the coverage that you need, and you can just quickly pop over and grab the thing, and not be worried that you've missed something. For me, that gives me confidence to be flexible, having had all the planning worked out, knowing that I'm never going to be missing coverage, never going to be missing the moment. I don't know. I think when I was first starting to direct, I don't know where I read this or someone said this to me. I think it might have been Truffaut that said that you should always leave a door open on set because you never know what's going to walk in. And that just stuck with me.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I was like, that's great. That's exactly right. Like, sometimes I think to myself when I'm planning my shot list, like, where's my open door? Like, at what point have I earned an open door? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I get this 3 camera position and this 3 camera position, and I have 2 more planned, that means if we can do it with time, I've got like 20 independent films. So I've got like 20 minutes. I can move over here and grab this thing I just saw and feel good about doing that.
Was there anything that sort of, dramatic that made it into the final film that you hadn't necessarily planned in the script or vice versa, or anything that kind of got scrapped because it didn't feel right when you were shooting?
Nothing that got scrapped. I mean, 23 days shoot, we used absolutely everything.
Yeah. It's not that long, really.
Yeah, it's pretty short. There's a little moment where Natalie comes in and she's about to put Mia in a wheelchair and take her to the roof, and she has a little conversation with the girl by the door. That was something that happened on the day. We were setting out for the moment where she comes in with the wheelchair, and I thought, she's got to have a conversation with the kid. And because we need to, for some reason, my gut was just like, we need to understand in this moment that the relationship that she has with Mia, who's the focus of that storyline, she has with all the children, and that the camaraderie that she has with Mia, she has with all the children, that there's a kind of equanimity to her approach. There's a kind of beautiful equanimity to it. So I went to Julia Fisher-Farman, who was at Video Village. I'm like, listen, Julia, we got to add a little scene. And she thought I was kidding, but I wasn't. And then we came up with some sort of structure, and then amazing Natalie and the amazing little girl.
Yeah. And you get something magic out of seemingly nothing. It's
I mean, if you get the bottle there, I mean, you can get lightning in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's shots of, there's a lot of, I love Super 8, and there's I shot a lot of Super 8 footage, and there's some shots of kids running around with balloons outside the bank. And that was because we had an issue with timing and I wasn't able to shoot inside the bank. So I was like, okay, everybody get your Super 8 cameras out. Let's get these kids in some balloons. And we just like ran around and shot a bunch of that footage, which ended up being the opening of the film.
It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes you have these moments when you're planning out and you have like hours and hours and hours to get like all this meticulous stuff, and then suddenly it's like, quick, just grab on the handheld and we've got like 2 minutes, and something magical sort of comes out that just happens to work in that one scene, and it just kind of it's like a little sort of miracle of pressure.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, just sort of going back to like getting started in film and TV, like what was your kind of experience first in film and TV, and like flipping between the two, and maybe the difference between where you are now and those kind of early I guess career start off moments where you're trying to sort of break in as a name in directing?
Well, the funny thing is I came at it in a really funny way because I grew up in Indiana with my mom, and I didn't actually watch a lot of, so I wasn't one of those filmmakers, which I'm jealous of the folks who sort of like, I was really into Steven Spielberg when I was 5. I wasn't that guy, I really loved photography. I really loved books. I really loved theater. I really loved music. I wasn't I loved writing. I didn't understand how it was all going to come together. And I thought I was going to be a photojournalist because that's the only way that I could figure out where I could put pictures and words together. And then I worked on a TV show as a PA that called Crime Story, and I was 16. And I was like, I remember it was like 2:00 in the morning, and it was set in the 1950s, and we had just magically created this whole, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I sort of felt like the kid that ran away to the circus. I just was like, oh, this is where it all comes together. I got it. And then in terms of just breaking in, I went to USC Film School in the production program, and, I directed a lot there. It's like you have to pitch, and then the teachers pick you to do stuff. And I got to to direct a lot there on film, which was great, which was a big deal at the time. And then I started working at books. I did a movie. An agent came to me and said at a film school, I did a little short film, and an agent wanted to represent me. And I said no, because I went to go work in a bookstore. And I went and I directed theater because I really felt like I didn't know enough. And I was worried about being some sort of flash in the pan and not having credentialed myself to myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're your own biggest judge. Like, that's what matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I was so hyper aware of, I knew I was sort of an independent film kind of person. And maybe I was so hyper aware of the stakes being so high. You get your shot, but if you don't know what you're doing, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So I kind of taught myself how to write, and then that led to several years of being a writer, TV pilots and feature films. When you could kind of make a living writing feature films that didn't necessarily get greenlit. I don't know that you can do that so much now, but you could. No.
It's tough, yeah.
Yeah, and then I started doing TV, and then I kind of taught, and then I did features, and then I, by design, decided to just do straight TV it's when TV was really becoming incredible. And I saw this poster of John Ford's credits and realized that I didn't recognize the first half of them. And I was like, oh, because it was like, back in the day, doing films for studios back then was like doing TV. The stakes were low and you could learn. So kind of the same thinking. I was like, let me just go do a bunch of TV, and the stakes will be low. The thing will get aired, and I'll get to sort of not have all the tools in my toolbox, because every show has its own visual language. And I wanted the challenge of like, what happens? Like, I don't like handhelds, but I did a show where they only wanted handheld and only wanted foreground. I was like, okay, all right, great. Okay. So I don't like handheld, but let me see what I can do in that, had to do my vision within the limitations of the show itself. And that was a really, really, really fortunate passage of time. And then I did audition. That's my entire story.
Yeah, no, it's a great routine. I mean, like, so the main things I sort of took away from that is that you've tried everything, you've put in the hours to go outside your comfort zone, and I feel like that does help sometimes to do something that isn't your sort of natural favorite. Like, really helps to get like different perspectives, and it also means like when you do sort of hone your style, you know how to think outside the box and create something that does feel sort of original and authentic, but without being like stuck into a tiny niche. So it's great route into filmmaking. So yeah. Yeah.
And also and if you're doing independent film, you just never know what's going to happen. Even
chaos. Yeah.
Total chaos. Yeah. I mean, I showed up and the location is completely gone. Like, I can't shoot one direction. And that's like, and I was able, I think, because of like having done TV, I'd be like, okay, give me 5 minutes. I can switch everything around, and it ended up being that scene in the alleyway, which ended up, by the way, being better. Like you're saying, I mean, you just never know. And it is chaos. So having had clocked in the hours, I think, is helpful.
Yeah, well, it's a great film. It does feel like a very a well thought out and unique approach to a biopic, and it's obviously a very important story with some great acting and some good all round filmmaking. So congratulations, and best of luck with the film.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so great to chat with you.
Thanks very much, Ami. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.
There we go. Audrey's Children, they're out now. Do go support, do watch. Brilliant performances, brilliantly well made. Deserves your attention. So do go watch it. Please do. Oh, another fantastic episode. And it's not finished yet. It is not finished yet. because we are now going to do Topic of the Week, which relates to Dom Lenoir's article, which was, we do blogs ourselves on the Filmmakers Podcast, by the way, but Dom was asked specifically by Directors UK after the success of his Stephen Graham and Erin Doherty podcast, and obviously Philip Barantini and Jack Thorne as well were on there. Adolescence, if you've not listened to that, it's 2 or 3 episodes ago. Go listen to that. The YouTube as well has blown up and done really, really well. So do go subscribe and all that good jazz.
How many views are we on the YouTube?
It must be nearly 200,000. I haven't checked in the last day or so because I've been busy or sleeping or walking or revising.
174,000. Not bad.
174,000 views on YouTube. For us who don't push that, it's pretty amazing. And Dom is fantastic doing the interviews with Stephen and Erin. And everyone's saying that in the comments, and people, we have no idea who they are. It's fascinating. But anyway, because of that, Dom was asked to write an article for Directors UK, which then in turn turned into a blog for Nerdly.
Well, we got referenced. So Directors UK kind of shared our article in their digest, and then when they had a conversation with Philip Barantini about adolescence, the topic of crisis in drama, because it was very pertinent, that sort of came up with Philip and Jack Thorne especially, was referenced in their chat, and we sort of Directors UK then had a further discussion with them, and then this article is kind of the third arm of that continuing topic that I think needs bringing up and definitely needs sort of bringing more to the forefront.
Yes, well, why don't you tell our listeners what the article was pretty much about in terms of the state of the industry, TV and film, and then we can sort of dive in for a few minutes and talk about what we think. Again, obviously you've got your view on it, but we can digest that a little bit more, go further, open up the wound some more. But yes, tell everyone what it's about and we can go from there.
It's a little bit of a review of adolescence, but it's also it's kind of a behind the scenes look at what it's like sort of going into the interview process and what the people are behind the show and like how they work and that kind of the film industry, and some of the kind of important sort of bits that are covered in terms of the industry is like, how do you who's actually making and commissioning drama? Why is it so hard? Why is no one taking any risks, and why are shows like this so incredibly rare? And that's kind of the crux of it, is that just the amount of people, not even in drama, but in like easier to finance genres, people that are like very, very, very successful are saying, oh, well, we need to have this, and this in place. I think I can't remember if it was Seth Rogen or someone like that, but he was saying like for a comedy that he had commissioned 10 years ago or something, now he would have to have every actor attached to the project and a director and a studio sort of interested for it to get commissioned, which is ridiculous, because you think like, well, if people like that are struggling in more mainstream genres, then what hope have we got for drama and harder to get financed things without those kind of name powers? And it's just, no one's taking risks, and then you're having all these. I mean, there is a lot of rehashing going on in the industry where remakes and shows are just kind of created, which feel like they're created in a sort of a discussion board of what's popular, and they don't have that personal touch, and they bomb, and it's just sort of background viewing, and no one's particularly interested because it's not personal, and that's what it has to be. It has to be personal, and like, personal stories can sell if they're well executed.
I totally agree with you, which is why I'm delighted I'm making Sessions, because it is a personal story. It is a drama. Someone struggling with their inner demons, and someone struggling with addiction and alcoholism and drugs, and trying to overcome that and get to the other side of that through, grief and friendship and, your own kind of journey. And these films very, very rarely get made. I mean, I'm surprised this is getting made, but it is a true story pretty much. And it's based on our lead Dan's life. And that is the main reason, because they're pushing it, they're doing it, they're raising the money, and they're getting it done. Carl and Lucinda are producing this movie, and obviously we know Lucinda from the podcast, and it's just amazing that a film like this can get made. But the amount of love for when Dan has mentioned this on his socials has just been incredible. People are like, yes, we need these stories. We need to talk about these issues, and especially in this case, it's a lot what men are facing and what the women behind those men are facing too, and what they have to deal with. And a lot of these stories don't get made, which is what Adolescence did. And suddenly everyone's going, why aren't more of these getting made? And
yeah. I mean, I feel like it used to be. I feel like it used to be the way that I don't know. Maybe it's just my sort of golden tinge view of Hollywood, but there used to be like a lot more producers that, you know, would commission good stories, and they'd be like, they'd sort of shepherd things through, you know, through that process, and that they'd be the kind of the background of trying to make good stories at the forefront. And then, you know, those kind of outposts would put out good drama. I mean, you know, as I said in the article, there's still good companies doing it. I mean, I'm not naming all of them, but like, you know, Working Title, HBO, Focus Features, like if you just, you know, they are just putting out great, you know, original drama a lot of the time. And you can tell that there is a real focus on storytelling. And, you know, Netflix now are actually like really sort of, you know, I spoke to the PR team a while ago, and they're like, look, we are trying to focus on making, you know, really meaningful, interesting content. So there's people making attempts, and there's, you know, there is these kind of stories getting made, but it's so few and far between that it's not enough to sustain the overall industry of people trying to make drama.
Well, so the issue we've got at the moment, I feel, in the industry is, even though the work's coming back a little bit, I would definitely say that I'm hearing on the grapevine there's a lot more jobs happening, a lot more films happening, more TV. So suddenly it's picking up for people. It's not suddenly gone back to how it was, but it's definitely picked up. Well, and I think the issue is that people are just going, well, we're not making money from these films, so therefore we've stopped making them. We're not making money from these TV shows. We're not selling them around the world as much because there's so much content. There's a backlash of all that content we had.
Well, that's the problem, yeah.
And this is the issue, and suddenly people are going, oh, well, we don't need it. We can put on another episode of The Traitors, or we can put on, you know, there's some singing show, and all right, well, we don't need the drug. They're watching that. But actually, the public are always the ones that will the clamour for it, and that's exactly what they're doing. Look at Adolescence. Look at how well it's done. Yeah. The audience are crying out for these kind of dramas and series. Baby Reindeer before it was like, well, hang on, why aren't we doing more of these? I think it'll turn a corner. I'm really hoping, because these crew who have managed to hang on in there deserve it. They really do. So I'm really hoping that now the Adolescence being this massive smash, and suddenly everyone will just go, we're moving ahead. Yep, all these films that we're trying to get made.
Yeah, and I think the main thing for me is like, is it riskier to make drama than, you know, genre? Maybe it is, but I think it's a far bigger risk to try and make something prescriptive and generic, because that is going to get lost in the crowd. And that's the question I would pose to commissioners.
Yes, but I'd also say these days anything that gets made is it's a miracle. Yeah, and true. If something gets through, it's like, just take it with both hands and ride the wave and just keep going. That's kind of the philosophy I feel like we have. I don't know. I feel that as indie filmmakers, we just have to jump on. We have to just keep working hard. And whoever's trying to make something, we go, okay, let me see if I can help. And for those of you out there who are in that boat and struggling, well, jump on someone else's project. Help them, you know. Work breeds work without a shadow of a doubt. When you're working, people start talking about other work, and that breeds work. If you're not working, if you're a second, a third AD, a PA, you'll get brought onto the next one, because the grip or gaffer or, you know, or art department go, well, I need someone. Oh, you're brilliant. Come and work on this one. Yeah. And suddenly those who aren't working don't get a look in. So jump on projects if you can. Do something that's maybe what you don't normally do as well. I think work breeds work. Good topic. I like that. Should we do a film term of the week?
Yes. Yeah.
As you've attempted to sing this, have you listened to the song yet?
I haven't listened to the song yet.
Great. Even better. And take it away. This is Dom Lenoir singing the theme tune for Film Term of the Week.
Film Term of the Week.
Amazing. That sounded like something from a 1930s musical.
That's exactly what I was going for, yeah.
Quite liked it, to be fair. It's quite good. Okay, film term of the week is Best Boy. What does Best Boy, or what is a Best Boy on a film set?
Well, isn't there Best Boy Grip and Best Boy Electrical? And it's a kind of it's kind of a hard to define role inhabiting that kind of space. I don't know. Like, I've never really understood exactly what a best boy is in film terms. I know that it's sort of camera electrical type department, and it's slightly more senior than it sounds, if memory serves.
It is, and you're absolutely 100% right, Dom. It is Best Boy Electric, and there is a Best Boy Grip. So for those who don't know, so your gaffer is your main person who works with the cinematographer, getting the lighting looking well, and they'll have a Best Boy. Often, and that'll be the assistant to the gaffer. And then there'll also be a key grip, which is the person who's responsible for handling all the non-lighting equipment, flags, dollies, track, and they will also have a best boy. And actually, a best boy is one of the top roles on a film set.
Yeah.
They're usually really high up. They're usually really, they know what they're doing, on a big films. Best boy it's up there.
Yeah,
it's like your number 4. It's incredible. So
Could even be a best
that's
girl.
what a best boy
Could
is.
even be a best girl.
Yes, absolutely. It usually is these days as well, but it was still called best boy. Best boy comes from the early days of movie making, in the history, the annals of the old days, where sets were far more casual and crews were pretty much always male.
To be fair, it says a woman who performs these duties may be called best girl. So there we go.
There you go. Oh, there you go. Good. I'm glad we can change that.
I mean, it's the slightly less, well-known one, but I think it's quite easily adaptable to be.
Well, it comes from the, like I say, the early days. When in production houses, and they'd employ young boys to work as assistants on set, and they were often called upon by the gaffers and the key grips who they needed a lot of support when moving and setting up gear. So you can imagine the old school gaffer, the old school key grip, and they're setting up and they're demanding that the crew gives them their best boy. Give me the best boy out of these boys that turn up. So that's where the term best boy comes from. But these days, they do a lot. They move gear. They do administrative tasks. They hire key department personnel. Yeah, and it's up to you as a filmmaker to learn exactly what this could be. But it's a rigging, all the grip equipment, troubleshooting technical issues, movement of heavy equipment, all sorts of stuff on a film set. So there we go. That term is best boy, and it is top role on a film set. So if you want to be a best boy, then travel yourself back to 1920s and turn up on on a film set. Who's the best boy? I am. Yay. Good. So there we go. Happy days. Wonderful. Thank you for listening to this bumper edition of the Filmmakers Podcast. Audrey's Children is out now.
Yeah.
Well done for interviewing both Natalie Dormer, which I know you were excited about because she's amazing.
Yep.
And it's a good one. And I really hope she does respond to you, and you can go for tea with Natalie Dormer, and you can pitch her the idea of
Dom and Dormer.
Dom and Dormer.
Yeah. Hopefully there's enough of a sense of humour to not be offended by Dom and Dormer as well.
Thank you so much for listening. If you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to
send the elevator back down.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, Giles.
We will see you all next Tuesday when we have very special guests,
James Hawes and Katrina Bell.
Yeah. Star of Belfast, and James Hawes, wonderful director, and they're here to talk.
Or Belfast in her case.
Very nice. And they're here to talk about next Tuesday about their new film,
The Amateur.
The Amateur, which stars Rami Malek. A lot of press about that. So that is for you next week. What more do you want? More filmmaking tips and tricks and knowledge. Oh yeah! Wish me luck this week. I've got a big, heavy week. We're working in a scrapyard, filming in a scrapyard. Lots of
getting scraps.
Exciting things happening in the scrapyard. Danger and action and fun. Yeah. So wish me luck. Till next Tuesday, if I'm here. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.